Hey everybody, Texas Trucker here, Lines of Performance Shop at Mopars.com. Mopar Monday here. Super hot, 97 degrees, got the fan going, door cracks, but this is a cool day. Next several, we're north of 100 degrees, not a good place to be. That said, there's a million texts coming. Apparently my sister has a turtle that she's ecstatic about or something. My phone's at 1%, it's across the shop charging, but still get notices, so my apologies on that front. Nonetheless, the bigger news here, Harbor Freight kind of sneakily launched, even on their website. You know, they usually have the banner ads at the very top that scroll through 3 to 5 or something. That's where you have like your 2-week coupons, instant savings, weekend promotions, generic slides, maybe new tools. You won't find it there. They never actually put it there. It's kind of down a little bit below off to the side. You know, I look at instant savings. It's kind of in that area if you're familiar with the front page of the website. This is desktop based. I'm sure mobile you'd scroll down a little more. But fortunately, if you were unaware, like I wasn't on Instagram for like a little over a year, and so I've kind of been spamming 4 thumbnails a night trying to get caught up. And in the meantime, it's going to take me longer than that to get over these turtle text messages. But in the meantime, I check in on a few places I follow, and I fortunately saw the story where they had the icon 25% off. And you're like, 25% off? And yeah, it's kind of a cool sale. The way they did this, if I remember correctly, I can't look at my phone because it's going to die if I turn it on. I'm surprised it hasn't died from the turtle text messages. So, anyway, it was kind of a tiered deal. I think if you buy one tool, good lord, this just will not end. One tool was like 10% off. If you buy 2, you got 15%. If you buy 3, you got 20% off. And if you buy 4, you got 25% off, which is pretty dadgum good. 20%, I always say that's kind of your threshold. They'll usually do like a 20% off a single icon hand tool once a month, once a 6-week cycle, plus whatever they have in flyers. This is running for a little while. I think it runs, this is June 24th. I think it runs through early July. So kind of a nice window on it. And my advice to you, hopefully you're patient and wait for sales, this is the time to cash in. If you tried out, an icon ratchet, and you're like, hey, this is actually decent, and you're kind of waiting, this is your time to strike. Similarly, if you bought maybe, say, 1 ratcheting wrench set just as your test bed, and you're like, I've had these things about 6 months, they're not terrible, and for the price, it can't really go wrong. Well, now you get them 25% off. So my advice, get 4. Obviously, if you're stocked and set up on icon, don't do that. If you've never used icon, don't jump in with 4 unless you have specific needs. But for those that have just kind of been slowly accruing things like I do, this is a green light. It means go. And what we're going to throw down is actually 2 items that are kind of related to what we've done here. Of course, I did pick up 4 icon tools to maximize my savings, but we're going to throw these down, minus the one that just took itself out. 7/16 was a pre-ejection casualty, if you will. But these are SAE Stubbies, old school USA. These are the icon ratcheting stubbies. And I guess I've had these quite a while at this point in time, but nothing egregious. There's never been a failure. I also don't really tax them. I'm the type, if I have a ratcheting wrench, it's for speed and convenience. I'm going to break something free with these. What I ran into, I have had an absolute terrible experience attempting to acquire Mac wrenches. You people have recommended them. You say I've got to try them. This would be their Precision Torque, which I still think is a bad name because Precision Torque wrenches, I could go on. But I have attempted so many times with different drivers, and then I call in, and then my orders get canceled, and generally with Mac on the phone, like I've had, I think, one other thing get canceled, but there's a super nice, never had a problem like an employee or anything. It's just they'll cancel orders. And then there's been so many promotions and so many deals, whether it was a flyer deal or just like some weekend type of a sale thing. Oh, how I have tried, and oh, how I have failed miserably. And you kind of just get to a point where you're like, how long does a man have to attempt to buy something at less than retail? And this was kind of like a pass on it, if you will. So I honestly don't know what I'm going to do with these. I'm torn about keeping them here because they're SK, retiring them because they're SK USA and they're still in really good shape, or taking them to work because I sort of have largely Americana in the roll cart, right? Downside of that, these are ratcheting and those aren't. So how does this tie in, you ask? Well, it ties in with these two items. So first thing first, we've got this thing that somehow stayed together, and golly, these messages. I want to say these were maybe 89, maybe 69, somewhere in that time frame, price range, I should say. And I don't really need to even open these up because I've already done a video on them. Nothing has changed. It's still kind of the funky red maroon. I guess they're replicating what Snap-on does. We've spray foamed these. It makes a huge difference. I would highly recommend that if this is your long-term storage. I'm not a fan of the space the plastic trays take up, but I've actually, with the Metric, instead of getting something like Tool Organizer, at the time Ernst didn't have their wrench racks, or they had wrench racks, but not like the individual Tool Organizer style ones, right? Those look really good. I'm not a fan of the Tool Organizer wrench holders, and at the time that wasn't an option. I actually, everything in drawer 2 of the roll cart is in the plastic tray minus this, because I could fit these, or I could fit, if this was an Icon equivalent, these, but I can't fit both without stacking them. That really sucks. It fits so nicely. You've got your full-length tray here of Metric, full-length tray of SAE, and then right here I've got Metric Stubby, I've got Metric Stubby Ratcheting, and then these two at the back. For me, it's kind of easier to get to the back, and you're thinking like, oh, Mr. Old School Mopar here, why aren't they at the front? Well, it's easier. It's more convenient kind of back than daintily picking up over here. So that kind of varies person to person, but that's generally how I roll. So I don't really know how I'm going to lay this out, because this isn't the only thing we got. Again, we've got Metric, we've got SAE. I haven't really had them long enough to have much issue. Half and 9/16 probably my most frequently used. These are Taiwanese made, as are almost any ratcheting wrench. It is extremely hard. I think we're down to Snap-on in terms of this style. Now, if you get like the old school, you know, kind of funky K-Star things, you can probably still find them American. But for like a stereotypical ratcheting wrench, open end, box end, switched, very, very difficult to find something not based in Taiwan. Stavilla, Taiwan. Hazet, Taiwan. Gedor, Germany. That's also like 36 tooth or something, so it's not going to be like 72 or 90 tooth. The Vera Jokers, I believe, are made in the Czech Republic. You spend quite a bit to get your switched iterations. However, as best I remember, they still don't have a stubby. You'll note German tool companies don't really have stubby wrenches, interestingly enough. But that's where you come in. You know, like the Stavilla ratcheting wrench is fantastic. Cabo makes them. The price is a little high, because at the end of the day, you're kind of getting Taiwan tools, right? But you could get Amazon, you can get Harbor Freight, you can get Capri, Tecton, etc. for way less money. And these are something I'm not going to use often. This is kind of it's either access, like you're limited, you can't fit a full-length wrench, or more often than not today, I was doing a lot of things where if I had a full-length wrench, I would be running into something. And these sort of are the mitigation for that. If I run my long, basically if I was tapping something, which is what I was doing, you got your sweet little T-handle set up right, and you're spinning around, rocking and rolling, and then I get to about 4 per side. It's a very funky little thing I'm doing, but 4 per side, I'm running into a base. If you kind of picture like something flat and then something spherical, that's literally what it is. Top holes, fine. Side holes here, great. But these over here, sort of on the perimeter of the wrenches, I cannot run the long knurled T-handle that I love to run. Typical tap wrench, if you will. So what do? I spin the handle out, I get my tap, and I go to a 5/8 wrench. That gets me started. You have to use your 12-point box end, start going, and then typically I would spin that. But now that I've got the roll cart out there, I was like, you know what? I wonder if I could save some time sticking this thing on a ratchet. And so that's what I did. And of course, some of the long ones, names I would like to tell you about, but don't know if we'll hit the 10,000 subscriber mark. Maybe you can figure that out for yourself. Coking, just playing around, kind of seeing what I like better. The little Hazette breaker bar, it's like the Goldilocks size, right? You know, I just recently picked up a longer proto because I didn't want to tear that handle up and I needed more leverage with 3/8. Ironically, this is a situation, I did go to the proto. It's a pain in the butt on this application because it's so long. In fact, one of the third times I spun it around, I swing everything I had down, which was a pliers wrench, 5/8 wrench, something else, maybe the countersink. There's like 3 or 4 items that I just the handle swung into. Another time with a ratchet, I slammed my hand against it. So the little Hazette was really nice, and that's kind of where the stubbies would come in. It would be a similar situation. If I had a full length, if we had the icons, which are kind of a long pattern to be honest with you, that's not going to work for me. This little guy right here would have been fan-freaking-tastic. Now, it's honestly faster to go 1-to-1, you know, just spin it, spin it, spin it, but eventually you get to a point at the start. It's nice to ratchet, just to have a little extra leverage before she starts cutting, and then same thing as you kind of finish it out, and most importantly, when you loosen, and then usually, again, I go 1-to-1, and I get to a point when you're backing out, it's just faster to kind of do this, right, by hand, so... the stubbies, the bottom line at work, it's not going to be like a heavy use item. So these are destined to go to work. And if you're thinking like, well, what was the controversy? Well, that's where item number 2 comes in. And this was kind of cool because I had no idea. I never really looked at this until I was there in the store, and I was like, oh, I had no idea. If you look at this, you'll see it's chopped off here. The camera can only go so far, but you'll see SAE 7. That's 7-piece set, correct? Again, if you want more detail on those, feel free. I'll try to remember to link the video. If I drop down WC STS-10, you're going to see 10-piece set. And you're thinking like, 10-piece set? Whoa, hey, you know, did they like clearance this one and they got this one in? What's going on? Well, no. This is not ratcheting. This is just standard stubby. I had never, truth be told, paid enough attention to these to realize that it was not 7/7 across the board. 7 stubbies ratchets, 7 non-ratcheting stubbies, right? So it's kind of cool, really, because where this goes 3/8 to 3/4 in your 7-piece set, you're thinking like, okay, hey, what are the 3 they added? 1/4 and 5/16, which you could very well come across very small fasteners. And then the mid-size that they threw in, the third one, is 11/32. So all 3 of them are going to be smaller than 3/8. Again, 1/4 and 5/16, quite useful in my opinion, especially something like this where you wouldn't have those sizes stereotypically torqued very well. I'm thinking of like plastic grill trim, grill assemblies, things like that here at the shop. At work, it's just kind of light duty stuff, and it's going to be nice, honestly, to have the 1/4 5/16. Don't know that I'll ever use 11/32. There's a chance, but in addition to the 3/8 to 3/4, makes a lot of sense. Coolest thing about these, they're on a temporary price reduction. I think they're down to $39.99, and then we stacked 25%. So this was like a no-brainer, right? $40. And, you come in, that's pretty easy to do the math. 1/4 of 40 is 10, so $39.99 now becomes $29.99 for a 10-piece stubby wrench set. I've had the icon not long enough to endorse and tell you they're great and comparable to this and that, but I have had them long enough that I believe if they were going to suck, I would know about it. I'm sure, again, you could have like a lemon batch get out here and there, but for me, they've been decent, and for the price, a 10-piece set at $29, that's $2.90 a wrench. Not a bad deal. Again, the stubby, not going to be your daily driver. Typically, maybe in certain tasks, it's going to be mandatory. But for most people, this is the option, adding it to the arsenal, and I am quite happy with this little purchase here with the price point of which we procured it, I should say. So, we will do this one in full detail here. Can't really fit that in frame, but tough, durable, polished chrome, Finish prevents corrosion and grease buildup. Slim profile and design for optimal comfort and grip. Again, premium storage tray. They take up so much more room than either of these, but they're also kind of nice. They've sort of grown on me. I've been like, yeah, plastic, no thank you. And then as it becomes harder and harder to find like specialized things without spending a ton of money, which keep in mind still no access to the Ernst stuff, I have sort of like, you know what, that tray does kind of kill some space, but it's sort of nice. So it grows on me. My only complaint, again, we're gonna have to stack one. If I tray these up, I could easily put these back into their case, which yes, I did keep it. If I did that, I would have to pick, well, actually I'd probably stack the metrics, and then I just pick, do I want the fixed or the ratcheting to stack, and you could have that all laid out. So if you're in like a full width drawer, keep in mind this is the US General roll cart, so the 34-inch Master Tech. If you were in anything bigger, or if you divide your wrenches between boxes or drawers, SAE and Metric, you're probably not going to have any issue there. But for the roll cart, it's a beautiful fit until you get to this add piece here. So everything would live in harmony if you can eliminate one standard set or one ratcheting set. Then again, if you have, 4 stubbies and, standard wrenches here and there, maybe you could tweak something too. But for me, something's probably going to stack because I don't want to carry them out into another drawer. The plastic trays, again, are going to stack quite nice as well. The flip side is we could go to something like the new Ernst wrench organizers and probably save a crud ton of space and add some wrenches, but we'll see. So, highlight points here. They've got a precision machined for a perfect fit on all fasteners, giving you maximum torque without slippage. I do believe these are smooth jaws. There's no anti-slip. I don't want anti-slip in these. I don't care to mar the fasteners I deal with, particularly here at the house. Precision 12-point box end. Again, I'm old school. You can't grab that little tap I was throwing, 3/8 18. Guess what? It's square on the end. What does that mean? 6-point socket? Ain't happening. Not gonna do it. 6-point box end that some people have now even started preferring on wrenches. Ain't happening there either. You gotta have a 12-point. The 12-point technology has progressed. I don't know where people continue to throw. It's like Harbor Freight sucks. This like the 90s, your early sentiment and impressions. Same thing with that. So many different manufacturers have their own spin on 12-point deals to grab the flats, and you don't round the corners off, but people have that stigma, and one person says it and then everyone runs with it, and it's not factually correct, and you're kind of screwing yourself over. But hey, I'm just a dude that uses 12-point stuff very frequently, so what do I know? Right here, they claim a balanced handle design provides a comfortable and secure grip. Right here, the angled open end allows easier work in tight spaces. These are offset 15 degrees, making it easier to reach around obstructions. Again, 64707. It's kind of funny, they do like the WC STS-10, and then they also have the like skew, go figure. But something I still love about Icon, aside from the lifetime guarantee, is this. This is something that you rarely see with like anything premium, let alone something cheap. Minor detail, not significant, but let's say that you had a project and you're like, God, I can't fit anything in here. And you're like, all right, I've got, 3 3/4 inches roughly, maybe a little less than that. Can't really even read the tape measure. So you're thinking, okay, well, I've got this, I need a 1/2-inch wrench in there. What am I going to do? If you come in here and you look at this, you're going to see the length on it. It's going to tell you like, oh geez, that I'm going to have to do some math on her, and you're going to sit there and you're like, wait, is it 3 3/4 exactly? If you were sitting there at 3 7/8, you're like, okay, hey, I think I'm going to have to get one of these flex head guys. It's just kind of a nice touch. These look to have been sitting around. Not sure if you can tell, but that's dust, that's dirt. Again, it might have something to do with where I live, but it was like that in the store, I assure you. So I gotta say though, at $29, I don't know how you can really go wrong here. So I'm very, very happy with that price. I am curious if any of you have cashed in on this. Again, they don't email very well at all. That's a knock against Harbor Freight. They used to. I don't know what their deal is. I used to get those 25% just emailed to me all the time. Some of the chicks at the local store were like, how do you get these? And I'm like, I have no idea. You know, I have one email address. I'm not sure what the catch is, but I'm not going to question it. And I haven't had one in eternity, unfortunately. Now, right here, some of you are like, oh, that's stupid, it's plastic tray. Well, number one, it's theft prevention. I'm sure that's like the number one thing. Number two, and I say this especially if you had ratcheting wrenches, if you work in a dusty environment, that can be something as simple as paint and body. It can be you're the fabricator guy and grinding crud goes everywhere, including into your ratchets and wrenches and roll cart and toolbox and drawers provided by work. Maybe you're outside in agriculture, you're like, you know, cutting hay or something. Having the ability to keep this, not just chuck it at purchase, but to keep this in the event that you want to seal this up. It could be something as simple as, hey, it's going to keep the dust down, and you know what, if I ever move, which you might be planning to do, you'd come in, you could put some tape down on the corners or something that's going to keep your wrenches together. You never know what happens in the back of a box truck. Kind of a nice touch from that point, right? So getting that out of our way, though, let's set it down. Here they are. This is our 3/4, so let's just start there. Again, these are, we've used a lot of really nice wrenches, you know, over the last 5-6 years. These are not bad. I like the large stampings there. I do wish it was kind of both ends, but it's not the end of the world. Again, 12-point box end here. Is it the exact same wrench? It sure looks like it. It'd kind of be crazy if it wasn't. But essentially the same thing, just again with 12-point fixed versus 12-point ratcheting. I think they do make a flexible ratcheting stubby. Don't hold me to that, but I want to say they do. This side right here, you got 9/16, 5/8, 11/16, and 3/4, so 4 wrenches on this side. This side over here, we're going to have our quarter, 5/16, 11/32. These bottom 3 with my thumb covering them, those are your newcomers. These are the 7 + 3 = 10 difference between this and the ratcheting stubbies. 3/8, 7/16, and half. Does this bother me any? Kind of does, because if I was doing this, I would have these here and those over there. But again, that's just me. Some of you might prefer this. It's not a huge deal, just personal preference. At least I believe they're uniform in this. You can quickly check here. Again, you're going to see 5/8 through 3/4 here, and you're going to on this side see your 3/8 through 9/16. The thing I will say about this, where this tray in particular, if I were to show it to you out of the package or you look back at the video we made, it has a lot of dead space. All this area here that you don't see wrenches, there's a lot of plastic there, you know, and it's just not used. This really does fill it out better. Now, if we took this same setup and you had SAE and Metric here, you're not killing much space at all, just sort of the slot here between them and your trim or border. So this one is probably significantly less egregious than the others. I do think the Metric might have a few more wrenches than SAE, but yeah, geez, we're lucky that didn't fall. The quarter guy right here, again, really nice when you can autofocus on that and just kind of pops into view. Quarter 5/16, again, dainty stuff, but again, maybe you're doing something small, electronic. Maybe it's grill trim or fasteners. Maybe it's a bolt that was originally 7/16 and is uniformly rusted down to size. You can wedge that on. All right. 3/8 right here. Just for 29 bucks, I don't know how you can really go wrong with these. So this is the first half of the haul. We're going to have 2 items in the next one. Again, if you would have bought these, you would have gotten 15% off. I totally get it if you want to do that. Hopefully you've been saving up, but if you wanted to go about it in that way and kind of like, well, let me try these out. If this was your gateway, you probably would do Metric. Well, let's face it, most people don't live in the 50s, 60s, and 70s like me, but if you do, maybe you've got 4th Gen F bodies or your thing, right? So your Metric stubbies, Metric ratcheting stubbies, you're like, hey, these are actually really nice. When you go back to supplement that, my advice, this is one of the rare times I'll tell you this, but buy 4. 4 items. You can get something cheap. You can get something that you like, the little ratcheting bit ratchet thing for 39 bucks that you think, that kind of be cool, but don't really need it. At that price point, the savings you're going to get across those 4 items, particularly maybe it's a torque wrench, maybe it's a full-size wrench set, maybe it's just tons of disposable sockets, right, for a road box. That is the time to kind of go all in, because 25% is a very special thing at Harbor Freight. So I kind of thought it was just a weekend deal. Again, I didn't really look at the fine print until last night, and I was like, oh, hey, there's a little more time on that. So I might cash in on some other things. But for now, we've got 4 items. These are the first 2. Again, these ratcheting wrenches are headed to work. These are staying at home. My question now, I'm kind of inclined to keep this set here in the roll cart and take the SKs to work. And then if the Mac stuff ever materializes, I don't really know. Yeah, that's something that's kind of irrelevant for this, I suppose. But they're still talking about the turtle, so I don't know. Must be a neat little thing. Maybe my phone's charged. But I've got to figure out what I'm going to do, if I'm going to keep everything in these cases, if I'm going to foam stuff, if I'm going to ditch the plastic trays and go Toolganizer or Ernst, have them loose in the box. I don't know. Just, you kind of get it here, though. 7 and whatever that is. I think 7 as well. 3/8 to 3/4. That's 14 wrenches, and there's no filler. Like the center beam, the border. It all adds up. I mean, take this chunk, that chunk, and this chunk, and I mean, we've killed about that much drawer space. That's almost another set of stubby wrenches. So you have to think of these things. Do with what you prefer and what you've got real estate for in your toolbox. But right now, again, it's kind of a sweet setup in that second drawer of my cart here. In terms of fitment, again, something's going to have to stack if we're going to keep these. But we'll figure it out. So maybe I'll throw that in here. But for the time being, this is the start of our kickoff to the Icon 25%. It may not be the last video. It's certainly not the last now, because there's 2 more sitting here. But could be even more. We'll have to wait and see. Again, if you want to see these in detail, the ratcheting wrenches, I will try to remember to link that. Again, we brought these in quite some time ago, metrics as well. But yeah, nothing more I can say. Just solid pickup, great prices. Again, instant save, lower price on this, plus the 25, no-brainer, especially since we needed them, so kind of worked real well. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with what we did. What I'm curious is, what did you do? If you know about the sale, hopefully you do. But if you did, what did you cash in on? Was it 25% something that finally tipped you over to item X? Did you just kind of like, well, hey, it's been 5 years, I've never tried any of their stuff, let me do it? What did you pick up and why? That's what I'm curious about. But with that said, I'll figure all this stuff out. We'll take it from there. LoneStarMopars.com is the website. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all 3 at Lone Star Mopars. Maybe we get the Max. I'm sure since I've bought these now, we'll probably get a great deal, or the driver will stop by and trying to sell me something else, and he'll be like, hey, I got these in. And, good Lord, that's usually how things go for me. But hey, we'll take it in stride, see how it plays out. But Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all 3 at Lone Star Mopars. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, leave a comment, your thoughts and opinions. Icon's great, Icon sucks, good for the money, decent, not as good as brand X, Y, or Z. Whatever you want to talk about, especially if you've got first-hand experience with them versus other brands, tell people. Again, the end goal here is to help people, believe it or not. I do encourage you to subscribe. If you do that, ring the bell, jump your charger across the creek while wielding your plastic trays of Icon wrenches that you picked up for 25% off from Harbor Freight. YouTube just might notify you we got new videos every Wednesday and Saturday, 9 a.m. Texas time. With that said, thanks so much for watching, and I hope I catch you back here for more action from the shop. Alright, little bonus content for you, just so you know kind of what I'm talking about. Right here, this pairs so very well for this drawer, kind of maxes it out space-wise. Granted, we could fit a ton more if we got rid of the plastic trays. That said, the plastic trays, like I said, they've kind of grown on me. If we were to kit this thing out with tons more wrenches, obviously we would have some issues. We'd probably need separate SAE and metric drawers, and I kind of think these would fit better like that, but this is what I've done here. So it's in part up top on the back of the cart magnet, I've got some Gador open box wrenches, right? So we just have ratcheting. So back here in the back, again, that's easier for me to get to personally. We've got our long icon, that's the only way they make them, but we've got our 3/8 to 3/4 ratcheting. Up here we've got the metric 10 through 19. Over here, this is a really good example, since we're talking stubbies particular in this case. We've got our fixed, and we should say ratcheting, and then here we've got our fixed. Right here we can fit another tray. Okay, so if there was, I haven't really looked at their flexible ones, but I assume they'd be in a tray like this, that would go beautifully. If you took this away and you put standard instead of ratcheting, that would fit beautifully. But then we kind of need to go to drawer number 2, right? You need metric and you need SAE. If you do that, maybe you're do classic Mustangs, you don't need metric, unless of course some idiot puts a coyote in, or you know, like a modern 5.0, then you've got issues and you need metric. Similarly, maybe what you do is like 80% metric, but then you got those people that bring in their old junk and you have to have SAE. That's going to really dictate it. Again, kind of what you're into. If you build brand new Porsches, you don't need SAE. It's a non-concern. Similarly, if you're Mr. Mopar 1950 through 1974, you don't need metric. Again, unless you do something like a Hemi swap, modern Hemi swap, that is. So if you take this, it's metric, yes, but imagine it being red and SAE, ratcheting and fixed. Right here in the same window, okay, this is like the exact same footprint that you would have for these two. We have the SK stubbies and we've got the Icon ratcheting wrenches. Now, let me get this out just so you know that everything I tell you is legitimate and we're not making any of this up for whatever nefarious reason. Good Lord. Alright, so I'll just take this set because it's brand new and it will nest quite nicely with one hand even. Is that not beautiful? I mean, yes, I know. We could fit way more. But if you're a fan of the plastic trays, like this is nice, I have to say. Here's the catch, okay? I can come in and on top of that, let's say that you almost always use your ratcheting, or vice versa, you almost always use you know, your fixed end, and then you would get the ratchetings if you wanted to. There's no issues there clearance wise, right? I mean, this is going to come in, go out, no issues. You still have even a little bit of height. If you left a marker or something, it's going to clear. So we can stack. I mean, you could conceivably, you could even have, I think these would stack. I don't have one. Well, actually, you know what? Since we're playing around, we're going to find out. So give me a second. We're gonna nest them, just so we know. Just so we know. Nice accordion there. Alright. Oh yeah, so absolutely. The clearance issue came here. But that's awesome, because what this means, again, let's say your cart is full like mine. Very full. Amazingly full. This lets you double the capacity. Yeah, again, I know it takes up space with the plastic, but stacking them, okay, this is where you have your dead space in your toolbox, is the vertical sidewall. There is no dead space there, folks. There is no dead space there. Like, this is maxed capacity. So in theory, you'd probably never do anything like this unless, again, let's say that you do metric 90% of the time. You could easily stow away your SAE stuff. It'd kind of be a pain in the butt when you had to get to it, but if it's not often, you probably don't care, or if you're limited in space, you'll deal with it. You'll pull it out when you have to. But in this scenario, ignoring that one, you could have your fixed wrenches underneath your ratcheting, SAE and metric, and then here you could do the same thing. You have your ratcheting on top of your fixed SAE, ratcheting on top of your fixed metric, and then you've got another window here for maybe the flexes. It nests so very well there, and that's kind of the appeal of it. You know, I like the spacing, I like that it's all laid out in front of me. I love the Ernst stuff, again here from SK, because we can pick it up, grab it, and go. I mean, this thing is stupid handy to carry, and you'll note nothing comes out on this unless I take it out. Meanwhile, while this is great in the box, I'm not a huge fan of the way it positions the wrenches, and then trying to move that about. Well, you've seen what happens. We've lost 7/16, we've lost these. It leaves a bit to be desired for transport. Now, space savings win. Space savings win better than that for transport. And then these are just the nesting, right? This is like your Stubby or your Hazette foam kits. It pairs beautifully. Again, the way they do those, if you're not familiar, they're TCS stuff. Tool control systems, you know, even Tang does this. They size their modules to their toolboxes. So if you come in and you buy a fancy Hazette bit set and foam, you're like, man, I wish this fit my Snap-on KLR better. Well, it was designed explicitly for a Hazette dimension, right? Snap-on would do the same for their stuff, most likely. So you might have trouble fitting it here in the US General. This stuff fits so very well. Again, if you went all in on Icon and you wanted to dedicate 2 wrench drawers, you know, 1 metric, 1 SAE, you could have like a sweet freaking setup. And again, you know, these trays are modeled after Snap-on, so I mean, their stuff would probably nest well too, but that's what I was talking about when I said you could nest it and stack it and kind of go to town. But yeah, this is what I have to figure out, but I did want to highlight, like, it kind of works well. So way more efficient, you know, use of your space. But, you know, when you consider that it's much easier to stack these, that's something you have to weigh in. Cumbersome to deal with the bottom levels, yeah, but how often will you be in the bottom level, right? Something you got to think about, but they work so very well here. I do wish we could get the trays in different colors for obvious reasons, but I'll leave it at that. So this was just me playing around. The colors you see there, the blue and the green, again, kind of depends where they'll wind up. We can easily go over those again, but I'll be working on figuring this out. I wanted to showcase this in case some of you didn't know, or you're thinking, like, I'd really like one of those Master Techs, you know. Well, hey, this gives you an idea what you'd be looking at if you had the Icon wrenches. So what I want to know from you now in this bonus segment, what would you do? Would you ditch every single plastic tray and grab Toolganizer? Would you get the new Ernst ones? Would you get classic Ernst wrench racks and just go to town? Would you get the adjustables? Would you just throw them in there? Would you go Toolganizer? Would you say, hey man, those plastic trays are fantastic, keep them? Let me know, because I'm curious, and it's one of those things, you got to figure it out, got to get your preferences taken care of. Sometimes ease of access, sometimes space constraints, you know, those are going to be your big ones there. But yeah, let me know what you would do here, and with that, I got to get back to the fan. I've got one over here, but it would like whiff into the mic. So I'm being courteous here, sweating to death, but I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to go over there, check out our other 2 items. I hope you'll check that video out too. Should be seeing it soon. With that said, thanks for watching. I'll catch you back for more from the shop.